Good morning, folks, and welcome back to another Travels of Red Rover. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Corinne.
And where are we this week, Corinne?
We're at the Badlands National Park in South Dakota.
Yeah, we're looking forward to a couple days out here in the Badlands. We're expecting to do mostly video, but we're going to do a couple evenings of landscape photography as well, we hope.
Yeah, it's very hot these days, so we're sticking to the mornings and the evenings for our photography.
This is absolutely a beautiful location, and we're really looking forward to it.
It's an early start to the day, and we're entering the Badlands National Park. The last few days have been so hot that you either got to get an early start or come quite late in the day. So we're going to see what we can scope out this morning and maybe capture a few early morning pictures. The Badlands National Park covers 244,000 acres of eroded buttes and pinnacles. There's bighorn sheep, pronghorn, and bison, as well as several colonies of prairie dog that make their home in the Badlands National Park. And it's not hard to locate these animals as you're driving along the main road through the park. We've entered through the north entrance near Wall, South Dakota, and we're going to be driving eastbound.
Corinne and I have been fortunate to have been able to visit a great number of national parks, and the number of wildlife interactions per mile in the Badlands National Park is truly amazing.
The Badlands are characterized by a lot of eroded spires and buttes, and I'm standing here near the edge of one of the canyon overlooks, looking down at the spires here that are eroded. Down below there's actually quite a bit of vegetation, which is nice and green right now, early summer. And I've set up a composition where I'm kind of taking in the layers of the various spires and the green grassland in the background. It's very hazy this morning, so it's going to look quite short in depth of field. Got my camera set for a aperture of f/14, and I'm using ISO of 200. It's a bit windy today, so trying to account for some camera shake. The sun has just been coming up over the hills of the east, and so there's still some lower parts of the canyon that are shadowed, so I'm mostly shooting across from the shadows, but I currently like the nice contrast of shadows and light in the distance.
So, Corinne, I see you're wrapping up here, but you were mentioning some ideas about processing these photographs, and you might want to say something about that.
Yes, with the intensity of the highlights and the shadows and the various contours of the buttes and pinnacles, I thought that this would be an excellent place to do some black and white photography.
Very cool. Looking forward to seeing those. Hi folks, well Corinne and I are back at the Badlands and we're using a little bit of the golden hour light to do some shots over the pinnacles and that in the bottom of the hill just behind us.
Yep, we're at Burns Overlook, or Burn Overlook, and it's a lovely space and just canyons and colored pinnacles, so it's capturing some nice golden hour light.
Yep, beautiful spot. So we'll talk about our photographs here in a minute. We are all setting our cameras up pretty much the same way. The pinnacles in the Badlands are quite chaotic and a little bit scattered and complex if you try to sort of sort them out in a photograph. So what I'm doing is using there's a little hiking path that goes along the top of one right here as a leading line out into the pinnacles. And then I'm using the setting sun to set the light on the right hand side of my photograph and shadows on my left hand side for everything on this side. And then on everything on that side is getting a little bit of light on the left hand side, right hand side of the pinnacle, but left hand side of my shot, which fills out and creates a richer shot on the left hand side. So I'll just show you a little bit of what I've done. So this particular shot, you'll notice that I completely removed almost all of the sky. And the reason I've done that is the sky's really not very interesting right now. All the interest is below the sky. Now you might say, well, why do I have that little sliver up there? Well, that's a little tip. When you go to do a wrap of a printed version of the photograph, you like to leave yourself a little bit of the photograph to kind of lose. So the little bit of sky on the top actually get lost when I wrap this photograph after printing it. So let's go back to the photograph here, and you can see I have a nice leading line going out into the pinnacles, and then I'm using the light that's being reflected around the pinnacle to create some definition and some depth, and then just using some shadows to fill out the photograph. So that way your eye kind of can go out into the pinnacles without being too chaotic, and in fact you've got a pathway leading you through them. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with the photograph, and I think it came out fairly lovely actually. Now the other thing I am going to do is I will try this photograph if I go back a couple here with more sky. Originally I thought there might be a little bit of color up there, and I've decided that I really just didn't like it and have been focusing more and more just on the pinnacles. I might try it again a little bit later when the sun actually sets, if it creates some color, maybe a little bit of pink or golden color in the sky, and then I'll go back to this photograph.
Our sun's getting pretty close to the horizon, even though it's still above the horizon right now. Most of the area below the canyon rim is now starting to be in shadow. So I did get a few shots off while the sun was still lighting up the tips of the pinnacles. And I think the combination of the highlights really enhanced the color variations in the pinnacles, and the shadows gave it a nice contrast. One of the things that I find is helpful when you're doing a photograph of a canyon is to try and locate an area that has some interesting formations, but not try and capture everything all in one picture. It may end up being a little too chaotic. So I try and find something that has a pleasing shape and color and use that as my subject matter.
and I also spent some time shooting some large panoramas, and we spent an evening shooting the Milky Way. Here are those shots. Well, folks, we sure hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please give us a thumbs up.
And if you'd like to see more of our videos, we sure hope you'd consider subscribing. It will help us a lot.
And as always, if you want to know when we release videos, hit that little bell button down there.
And we love to hear from you, so if you have any comments or questions, we'd be happy if you'd put it in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to respond as soon as possible.
And until next week, bye for now.
Bye for now.